He slowed, then came to a stop with the rest of his squad. In his helmet, icons with their names and vital signs blinked on over their bodies as his suit linked with the squad's low-power IR commnet. All wore skin suits like him, with cylinders of compressed gas strapped to their backs. Using a personal EM drive or chemical rockets would have been easier, but both gave off energy signatures the assemblage's security scanners could detect. Target is 15 kilometers away. You should have it marked on your HUD. The voice of Lieutenant Rield, his squad commander, sounded inside his helmet. Turning his head toward the center of the assemblage, an icon appeared on Teal'c's HUD, highlighting a point above the station's inner ring. Let your suits do the geometry. I don't want anyone eyeballing this one. Equipment check. As the rest of Teal'c's team checked their gear, he reached down to his chest to check his own. Satisfied that the shallow box strapped to his chest was intact, with his vacuum-hardened custom supercomputer nestled inside, he flashed a tentacles up sign to his squad leader and she nodded back at him. Align to target. His squad leader transmitted, angling herself toward the target icon in her HUD. Teal'c did the same, letting his suit computer make fine adjustments as it aimed his body toward the center of the station. 25-second. Burn on my mark. 3, 2, 1. Mark. Teal'c felt himself accelerate with his squad. The computer-controlled release of compressed gas propellant only accelerated him at 1G, but by the time the 25-second burn was over, his squad was traveling 15 kilometers a minute. His suit chimed as the nozzle cut off and the acceleration stopped. For a few seconds, Teal'c was left with just the sound of his own heartbeat as he watched one station ring after another appear and disappear beneath him. Then his suit beeped once and flipped him end over end, so Teal'c was facing the opposite direction. Then started the 25-second burn that would bring him to a halt. Looking around, Teal'c mentally counted his squad mates. The suit's computers had kept them in neat formation, and now they floated just a few hundred meters away from a docking port attached to the Bonthan embassy. Sitting motionless in the docking bay was an ovoid-shaped ship with markings identifying that it belonged to the Bonthan Navy. That's our target. No docking collar, it might have shields up. Fiend, you're up. One of Teal'c's squad mates removed a small device from a belt on his skin suit that resembled a flare gun and pointed it at the courier ship. With a noiseless flash, a small canister exited the barrel, then broke apart, scattering small metal spheres in a cone. Before the metal shot could hit the surface of the ship, however, they disappeared in tiny flashes. Shield is up, Commander. Deploying insertion collar. Teal'c held his breath as Fiend jetted slowly toward the ship. If Fiend touched the shield, the results would be messy, and the resulting explosion of superheated Dreton would vaporize Fiend and kill the rest of the team. From a pack on his chest, Fiend removed two small hoops that were attached by a gauzy fabric that glinted in the reflected light from the planet. Fiend pressed a small stud on one of the hoops, and both expanded to a diameter of a little less than a meter. As the hoops expanded, the fabric between them expanded like an accordion, creating a 2-meter-long cylinder of fabric with a hoop at each end. With great care, Fiend lowered the hoop toward the courier ship through its shields. The fabric began to glow, as if the energies of the shield flowed around it, but the hollow cylinder held in place over the ship. Insertion collar deployed. Fiend reported. Teal'c let himself breathe again. Wordlessly, the Dreton Special Forces team maneuvered themselves through the collar, taking great care not to touch the walls of the cylinder. Once through, Teal'c gently unfolded the screen and keyboard of his computer from his chest. I've got no passive networks, no stray packets, no open ports. It's locked down tight. I'll need a hardwired connection. Teal'c said, as he manipulated the keyboard through custom waldos at the end of his suit's arms, which mimicked his tentacles, allowing him to interact with the computer without the bulky pressurized tentacle mittens the rest of his squad wore. All right, Natch, Delve, find us an access point. Teal'c, be ready to connect once they find a port. We've got a time limit on how long that insertion collar can hold that hole in the shields. Rield motioned two more of her team forward. One of Teal'c's squad mates jetted toward the ship, making contact with his feet, then activating his mag boots. He paced the hull of the 100-meter courier ship, inspecting its lightly armored shell, until he seemed to find what he was looking for and removed a plasma cutter from his belt. Carefully, he disengaged his mag boots and engaged 2 electromagnetic pads on his knees, securing Natch to the ship in a kneeling position. The plasma torch flared as the Dreeden brought it to the hull of the ship, cutting deep into its hull. Soundlessly, a piece of hull tumbled free as he finished the cut, exposing a mass of wires and tubes. Demagnetizing his knee pads, he jetted away from the hole he had made, making room for Delve. Taking a similar position to Natch, the tech specialist unstrapped a magnetic case, which attached firmly to the hull at her side. From the case, she removed cabling and small datapad, connected to what looked to be a short gray wand with an exposed metal tip. Delve moved the wand over each wire in turn as readings appeared on the datapad. Once she had found what she was looking for, she replaced the datapad in the case and skillfully spliced the cabling to one of the exposed conduits beneath the ship's hull, nodding to Teal'c. It was his turn. Plugging the cable into the data jack on his computer, Teal'c began the systematic process of disabling the ship's computer security systems and gaining access to its files. He grinned under his helmet. Time to have some fun. Narya had tried to tell the Dreeden medics patching the holes in her carapace that it wasn't necessary. But they had just clucked disapprovingly at her and continued their work. Once they were done, Narya could finally concentrate on the situation she found herself in. Ambassador Nesh had left the conference room to monitor the progress of his tactical team from a secure room further inside the Dreeden embassy, leaving her standing across the table from the Terran, who scribbled furiously with a pen onto a rectangular sheaf of paper. "Why not use a datapad?" Narya asked and immediately regretted it as the Terran ambassador made eye contact with her. Even after spending an hour in the room with him, his gaze tickled a primordial instinct in her brain. And with an effort, she retracted her hackle spines. "I'm sorry, Admiral," Ambassador Badenwood said, quickly looking away. "I know how uncomfortable this makes you. If you'd like, I can put my helmet back on." "No." Narya frowned. "I suppose I should get used to it looking at a predator. Besides, your revolting features don't bother me." "You're a bad liar, Narya." The ambassador chuckled, exposing his white teeth, 2 of them showing sharp canine points. Thankfully, he studiously avoided looking directly at her. "It took us years for the Dreeden to accept us, and years more for them to trust us. This won't be an easy process." He shook his head. "Your reaction to our appearance is a natural one, and not unexpected." Author's name and the link to original text is in the description. Consider tapping the thumbs up and pressing the subscribe button if you enjoyed this video.